With me now, former Pennsylvania Senator and Fox News contributor Rick Santorum and Massachusetts Treasurer Tim Cahill, who is now running for governor in Massachusetts as an independent. Let me just ask one question. I have to do a follow-up. We went to Washington, so we were interrupted on our conversation what's happening in Massachusetts. Did Romney care? Is patient care better or worse than when it started?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if it's any better or any worse, to be honest with you. I'm not 100% sure. I think it will get worse if these community hospitals do close or go bankrupt.
Rick?
It'll get worse when they start to ration care because they can't afford it. I mean, what Tim was talking about is that the federal government came in with this stimulus package and pumped up all of these state Medicaid programs, which is where most of the folks in Massachusetts have gone. Once that's over, guess what happens? Then the state's going to have to say, we can't afford this anymore, and they're going to have to start rationing care. When they start rationing care, then the people who are really sick, the people who are on the margins of life, you know, those little kids who are born with genetic defects, or those older people who have terminal diseases, all of a sudden we're going to start to say, you know, we just can't provide the level of care for these people who don't have, quote, useful lives, and we've got to focus our attention other places.
What happened? What? You know, do we have the quote from the Moody's report? Put the quote up here, will you? Here's Moody's says U.S. debt could test AAA rating, but in this report, fiscal adjustments of a magnitude that in some cases will test social cohesion. They're saying if we don't want to lose our AAA status, which means, well, I mean, we can't lose it, or we can't pay for our debt.
This is under the existing.
Yeah, what we've got right now.
Not even talking about adding another $1 trillion, or if you look at the real 10-year cost, about $2.5 trillion.
Got it. They're talking about we have to make such deep cuts in our spending that it will test social cohesion. In other words, civil unrest.
We're going to talk about, look.
What happens to us from here? What happens to us?
Well, right now they're playing a game. Right now they're playing a game that they're going to put all these taxes on the wealthy people. That they're going to, if you look, this is a new social. This is a new social welfare program that you said. It's a new social welfare program that is going to be paid for, unlike any in the past. Medicare and Social Security, big social welfare programs spread across everybody. Everybody chipped in. There was social cohesion because if you were lower income, higher income, you all participated. This is different. This is going to be paid for by people who are going to see a Medicare tax. If you're over $200,000, you're going to have an increase in your Medicare tax. And by the way, you're going to be taxed on your unearned income, but only if you're over $200,000. All these things that are going to go into place, they're going to be focused on trying to hit the rich and hit, you know, corporations. That is not how we've ever done this before, and that's one of the reasons I think you're going to see when the rubber hits the road, you're going to have problems.
I just advertised for a position in my company here in New York. 450 resumes. The common thread is you look at the resumes, terminated 2008. Yeah. I mean, people haven't, it's 2010.
Right.
People haven't had a job for 2 years. Now, you're hitting these people who are rich. They're the job creators.
Right. Exactly. Well, our experience in Massachusetts, this bill was passed before the recession hit, and that's why all the projections were rosy. But we're still at 9.5% unemployment. It's hard for small businesses to hire people because they have this mandate now that they have to cover everyone or pay a fee or fine for it.
So when we come back, I want to ask two things. You from the national side, and don't talk to me about what, you know, well, they'll never do it because of political reasons. No. What needs to be done? And you from the state side, can you ever get rid of Romney Care? Can you ever get rid of this?
No, we're going to keep it and we're going to make it work.
Okay, so what needs to be done? Back in just a second. We were just talking in the break on, you know, do you really think this is going to pass? And Rick Santorum just said to me, yeah, it depends on... It
depends on the American people. I mean, this is... I've been around Washington for 16 years. I was in the Senate and the House, and I've never seen a vote that with the consciousness level of the American public so high, and the fear of the American public so high, and Congress being so disconnected from that. So well, whether it's oblivious or dismissive, and the only way is to break through that. And you're seeing, and Tim's talking about a member from Massachusetts who was a yes, who's going to flip to a no.
Why?
Go ahead.
His district is conservative. It voted overwhelmingly for Scott Brown. and he sees the Senate bill as is going to hurt Massachusetts because it's going to cut back on some of those reimbursements, and he doesn't feel it works for the country.
Okay. By the way, former Senator Rick Santorum from Pennsylvania, and Tim Cahill, he is a Secretary of Treasury now and running for governor. You are we're a Democrat, moved to independent because he's like, yeah, this is crazy. What's going on? Let me ask you this. America is a center-right country, but we have moved. I mean, look at the radicals. These are all 1960s radicals with SDS and communists and I mean the people are involved are way over here. When the Republicans tried to push through immigration reform, the American people were here, but they had a little window that they were pushing over here. And look what it took to get them to stop. I mean, they almost passed it, did they not, Rick?
That's right,
they almost passed it, but it was the American people that stopped them.
Absolutely.
Now we have radicals who have moved the window over here. Do you really think it can be stopped?
I thought it was stopped when Scott Brown was elected.
Exactly right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we thought it was stopped. We didn't think it was still going to be on the forefront. And now they're coming back in this manner. And I think it can be. I honestly think if people know what the true costs of this are, there's a lot of fiscal conservatives from both parties who feel that they can't afford more taxes. They can't afford anything like this on a national scale. And that's what the Scott Brown election showed us in Massachusetts, which was always seen as a very liberal Democratic state, and it turned very quickly. So I think that there is still time if people know what the true cost of this, passing this bill, is, what it's going to do to the American economy.
Help me out, guys. Help me out. What I said to the two congressmen just a few minutes ago is, if this is where the Republicans had us on immigration reform, and it was John McCain and Lindsey Graham here.
And George Bush.
And George Bush. You're exactly right. They had us right here. Yeah. Okay? They had us onto the center left, not the center right. Lindsey Graham and John McCain are still here. You can't, if this thing passes, you cannot pull this window back here. What you'll get is the compromise of moving the window here. You're going to need a Republican Party that is probably over here to be able to get it back to the center. Does that make sense? Because you got to, there's no way to, you can't cut this out. Once it passes, it's like in Massachusetts. It will always be there. It's just a compromise of that. Right?
I would make the argument that number one, that if it does pass, and I pray that it does not pass, that there's an opportunity for repeal.
Through the court system?
No, through the court, certainly. If they try this deeming idea, there's a huge risk for them, because there's a chance the court will strike down the whole bill. So that's number one. Number two, every Republican is going to run, an independent, Tea Party, they're going to run to repeal this bill. And a successful election in 2010 can stymie this bill from ever being implemented. This is a 2,700-page bill that if you look at and read the number of times, it says the Secretary shall, so the Secretary of Health is going to have to write literally tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pages of regulation.
You don't think that's already been written? You're fooling yourself.
Well, I mean, they can't.
The Center for American Progress. Look how fast that stimulus bill came out. I remember when that first stimulus bill came out, I said to my staff, "Who the hell's writing this? Yeah. Who's writing this? This isn't something they threw together. This has been worked on for a very long time." Center for American Progress. All that stuff is done.
My question too is, how do you read it? I can't read 2,000 pages in 3 days.
No.
I mean, maybe I'm a slow reader.
How do you have a president who says, "Well, I don't know what's in it right now, but it's got to be passed as soon as we'll read it for 3 days"? You can't. It's all legalese.
Well, the difference here is, when it comes to these regulations, there is a regulatory process that they have to go through, and it will take months, years.
Run by
them.
Cass Sunstein.
Well, I understand.
We had a rule in Massachusetts in our law that says if you lost a job, you had to wait 6 months to go to the connector for free health insurance. And that has not been enforced at all. So people are going immediately. So even the rules that are in place can be manipulated by the bureaucrats if they really want to bring people into full subsidized health care.
That's another thing that I don't hear anybody talking about, which is if this bill does pass, and as I believe me, it will take years to implement this bill and to get this thing off the ground. And the timelines in this bill are completely rosy. What's going to happen is Congress, I think, immediately after this bill passes, they've got to pass something called the doctor fix, which I know you've talked about, which is about $250 billion to pay doctors who won't see Medicare patients if you don't pay them more money, because they're going to get a 22% cut in their reimbursements. That's going to pass. The Democrats will not pay